As you can see, my presentation is short and sweet. My name is BrettBurnsA. I'm from Owsley County Schools. I actually work in both schools, but my project was for the high school. I work with 7th grade all the way up through 12th grade. And what I teach is technology education and engineering. But more specifically, what I teach is a little bit different program. We're focused mainly on a STEM initiative. And that's a little bit different than things I've done in the past here in the school. Does anybody have wood shop growing up? Anybody have wood shop or some vocational class? Well, when I went to college, those were phased out. When I went to college, those were completely shut down and phased out. My father taught woodshop. So when I went home of a day, I wasn't the kid that could say, "Oh, what'd you do at school today?" And I couldn't say I didn't do anything. But one of the things I noticed in the first 10 years that I taught school, that I had kids that would go out in the hallway and somebody would be like, "What'd you do in Burns' room today?" "Nothing. We didn't do anything." Took notes, worked on the computer a little bit. And we still do a lot of computer work. I do a lot of drafting work. I do a lot of online research with my students and discussions. But one of the things that I wanted to add this year was the idea of a more modern makerspace. So our vision was the idea that we could enrich our classrooms with hands-on learning. And what happened is some of my peers went to some other facilities throughout the United States and they saw these maker spaces. And I know we all know what maker spaces are, and they're very high-tech tools. And I wrote some grants and I started making a maker space in my classroom so we could do some technology education-based maker space things, not posters and display boards, but more actual hands-on projects. So one of the things that I wanted to focus on was the idea that students could create real-world artifacts using real-world tools. This next little picture is just a picture of our core makerspace, and you can see some of the tools that we have out. It may look like something you may have at home if you work on small projects or you're a hobbyist or something like that. But this was a setup. This was the core of our makerspace. This year we purchased a 1x30 belt sander, a buffing wheel, polishing wheel, some clamps and different things of that nature, a cordless drill to go in the classroom, and the Dremel workstation with all the attachments for it. And the idea was then that we could use physical tools to create real-world things. We could work with wood, we can work with metal, we can work with plastic, we can work with glass, we can work with things that come off of our 3D printer to further modify them the way we need to. We can modify existing things in my classroom to make them work as well. So when we do our conservation initiative throughout the district and we're talking about reusing and recycling, we can actually bring, trash in and recycle it and actually make physical things through our hands-on activities. I also bought I've got a bandsaw. I have to keep it put up because we wind up with 9 fingers if we're not careful. So I keep my bandsaw put up most of the time unless we're using it. And my big focus in the classroom was on safety. We spent a lot of time doing research on safety, so I got my research component in with my students. That way they all had to be tested on each piece of equipment. And then we started with problems like one of my classes, my advanced tech class, our first project was to build a better mousetrap. And we were designing these mousetraps, and they had the option of designing something in our 3D CAD software, or they could draft it out and then use real-world products to build this mousetrap. And we had a few of them built, and I actually have just a picture of one of my students here working with the tools. And what you can see is right here in the corner is the edge of his safety glasses. I wanted to get a picture of him with his safety equipment, but apparently I didn't get it. And we all worked right there. That was in the back core of my classroom, and everything's kind of flexible in my classroom. I can move things around, and I made sure I bought desktop tools. Next year I'm going to buy a floor model drill press. We're going to move into some metalworking type things in addition to some of these tools. But we're a general high school. We're not a vocational school. I have students that go to vocational school, so we're not trying to get to that level. But we're trying to do more of a vocationally based maker space, and we called it our tool space, where we have actual physical tools. So I did notice early on in the project that my students wanted to use the tools. They want to use things because it's loud and it's fast and we can make things, and it's flexible. It's not paper and pencil. It's not, we're a one-to-one school, so all our students have Chromebooks. It's not on the Chromebook. It's not on the internet. It was actually get up and do something. And one of the big results that I had is my students kids were out telling other kids, like, you ought to come to Burns's class. We made mouse traps, man. We're going to set off all our mouse traps today. And we had all this stuff out on the floor, and we were building these things and working with students. And I really noticed with my at-risk population, my students that don't want to come to school, don't want to do anything while they're at school, they were willing to do this stuff because they were working on things at home and they had projects they needed to work on. And we also, from here, and one of the things that I'm looking at next year for a project, we started doing a help desk in the classroom, and we had things that were existing in the school that were broken or needed modified. We actually modified in our classroom, and we repair Chromebooks, we repair cell phones, tablets. We've had a lot of things apart in my classroom this year, and it is messy. One of the things that you can't see in this picture, just barely, we've got a really nice shop vac under the table, and we're going to add some ventilation next year to go. This used to be the home ec room, so it's already plumbed and ducted in. I can just add that technology. So my classroom is moving toward modular maker spaces, which is exactly what I went through in high school, and apparently it worked. I mean, I made it through. So that was my project in a nutshell.